Have you ever felt overwhelmed by the constant pressure to find meaning in every single thing, to meticulously trace cause to effect in the intricate tapestry of life? What if, instead, a sense of liberation could be found in the quiet, often unsettling realization that, sometimes, it all just doesn't matter? This profound idea lies at the very core of one of the 20th century's most iconic literary work, Albert Camus' The Stranger, or Outsider, a novel that quickly became a touchstone for existentialism, though the author rather fancied to call it absurdism. The celebrated novel introduces us to a central character, Meursault, whose very being seems to embody this intriguing notion of fundamental indifference. From the opening pages, particularly in the stark portrayal of his internal feelings and motivations concerning his mother's death and funeral, words like indifference or hopelessness immediately spring to mind. Yet, upon closer consideration, indifference might not fully capture the nuance. It's less about a lack of feeling and more about a profound detachment, a peculiar uninvolvement in merely observing the unfolding events of his own life. Things simply happen, he perceives. There's nothing more to it. His interactions within society are depicted through the unfiltered, unadulterated immediacy of his own sensations, which often gives the impression that the significant events occurring around him are of little consequence to him. While this might lead one to believe Meursault is utterly apathetic, the truth is more complex. There are several instances where he clearly demonstrates moments of being moved or affected. For example, he feels a pang of regret after a blunt reply, acknowledging he shouldn't have said that. However, Meursault's profound detachment becomes glaringly obvious in his direct interactions with other people. It's as if he doesn't even see the point in fabricating stories or inventing explanations, even when he most likely understands that his unvarnished honesty will not be received without a raised eyebrow or outright disbelief. This characteristic reaches its apex during his legal proceedings, where he finds it genuinely simplest to merely speak the unadorned truth, regardless of the severe implications for his own fate. At one critical juncture, he even articulates that he murdered the Arab because of the sun. While this bizarre statement is probably the closest he comes to revealing his true impulse, if such a clear singular motive even exists within him, in the serious context of a murder trial, such a declaration strikes others as utterly incredible, unbelievable, and even rather funny. Indeed, the good people in the courtroom laugh at him. This profound, almost pervasive conviction that nothing actually matters permeates the entire narrative. We witness this repeatedly in his responses to personal and pivotal questions. When intimately asked if he loved Marie, his girlfriend, his reply was that it didn't matter, adding that he probably did not. When queried about the prospect of marriage, he simply stated, "I don't care. We can if you want, but it doesn't matter." Even when offered a potentially pleasant and suitable life, he agreed but qualified it with the assertion that it fundamentally didn't matter to him. What is the ultimate outcome of such an evident absurdity in everything, coupled with the powerful awareness that it is all in fact quite the same? This seems to lead Meursault inevitably to a life lived exclusively in the present moment, to exist purely here and now. A significant and deeply insightful part of the book is dedicated to the detailed description of the legal proceedings and the intricate machinery of the justice system, which is inherently tasked with the responsibility of finding justice. Following Meursault's violent act, a murder, the primary and overwhelming objective of the justice system becomes to thoroughly understand why he committed such a thing, to meticulously uncover a reason, a specific motive. But what precisely transpires when no such clear reason or motive genuinely exists? Both as individual human beings and as a collective society, we inherently attach immense significance to the concepts of cause and effect. This drive is so powerful that we diligently seek them out, even in situations where, objectively, they are completely absent. As the reader, we are granted the unique privilege and luxury of an independent observer, afforded a direct glimpse into the very mind and thoughts of the character. We therefore know with certainty that his action truly mirrors no discernible motive. Perhaps the only semblance of a reason is quite literally the blazing sun as Meursault stated in court. However, such a stark and motiveless conclusion is, fundamentally, unacceptable to the prevailing societal order. The relentless gears of the justice system continue to turn, processing all available data until a clear, comprehensive, and acceptable narrative is meticulously constructed. Thus, the character is conveniently labelled a human monster, presumed to have meticulously planned every detail of his heinous act. This fabricated narrative conveniently aligns with his constructed psychological profile, especially highlighted by the fact that he didn't mourn at his mother's funeral. Meursault is undeniably a murderer, yet he was judged in part, and quite possibly even primarily, for aspects of his character and actions that were truly unrelated to the actual murder, though it was solely and because of the murder that he stood trial. This is where we clearly observe the imposition of a contrived cause and effect relationship. As the reader, we possess the insight to know that these supposed connections are entirely unrelated to the truth, rendering the entire judicial process profoundly absurd. But in the real world, we are not granted the supernatural vantage point of a trans-dimensional being, with direct access to the inner workings of other people's minds. We lack the luxury of seeing into the thoughts of others. The very methods described in the book for seeking out causes and effects are, therefore, in our own reality, our only available tools for attempting to bring order to the overwhelming chaos that constantly surrounds us. The very zenith of absurdity during the trial proceedings is reached at the precise moment when it becomes undeniably clear to the reader that pivotal decisions are being made about the character in a manner that is almost entirely without his genuine presence or participation. He himself reflects, "It seemed a little as if the matter had nothing to do with me. Everything is happening without my participation." This unsettling reality isn't due to some explicit denial of his fundamental rights, such as the right to appear before the court, or the right to defense, or any other procedural right. Quite the contrary. This decision-making process about Meursault without Meursault is paradoxically a direct product of the meticulous and proper application of all due legal rights. It is crucial to understand that this observation is not meant to romanticize the character. He was, without question, an unusual individual, perhaps even bordering on being a sociopath, or perhaps he simply had the unique misfortune of possessing a nature such that his physical needs often adversely affected his feelings, as is described in the book. Regardless of his specific psychological makeup, there's a powerful and universally applicable insight here for us to consider. In the relentless cascade of our daily lives, where we are frequently inundated and even overwhelmed by all the superfluous ballast and trivialities, it would most likely do us no harm to occasionally pause, take a deep, centering breath, and consciously remind ourselves that in certain contexts, it is in fact all a bit the same. This isn't an endorsement of complete apathy or a descent into nihilism. Rather, it's an invitation to find a fleeting moment of detachment from the relentless societal pressure to unearth profound meaning and causal links where none inherently exist. It's about recognizing and accepting the often uncomfortable, yet ultimately liberating absurdity inherent in certain situations. And in that recognition, perhaps finding a strange, quiet kind of freedom. By unburdening ourselves, even briefly, from the heavy weight of external expectations or meticulously constructed meanings, perhaps just like Meursault in the novel, we too can discover a unique form of peace by simply existing, truly, here and now.